Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dan Fradenburgh. I'm here with Jason Williams, and this is the REI Rocks Review, where we review real estate investment summit content from our REI Rocks summits. But before we get too excited with that, Jason, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. I got a summertime cough, but I'm gonna live, I hope.
Yeah, that's pretty much where we are in this house as well. I could tell that when I breathe deeply, there's some sort of stuff in my lungs, and it's not so great either. And then there's problems with the wife as far as her vision goes. So, yeah, it's definitely been a week. It's another one of those times where I'm glad that we can rely on a presentation rather than our own energy and charisma. Today, we're going to be going through Kelly Ionone's presentation. It is on marketing. But as far as us being here, this stuff is not free for anybody. And these presentations that we do, we do two different summits every single year. And so we end up adding dozens of hours of content every 6 months or so. But I just want to remind everybody that this space could be yours. We do have sponsors already, but if you would like some more eyeballs of commercial real estate syndicators and investors, this is the place to be because we are here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And to say thank you to our big gold sponsor, here is Angel Williams for 1 minute. Here we go.
Hey guys, it's Angel, and we are super excited to announce our newest gold sponsors, Sponsor Cloud. If you're wondering what Sponsor Cloud is the one-stop shop for sponsors to automate, to delegate, to execute every aspect of their syndication projects, from affordable PPM generation to investor relationship management to fund administration and compliance, exclusive capital raising networking events. Plus, for the REI Rocks community, they're going to offer free migration and customer success services when switching from another provider. That's like a $2,000 value. So contact Sponsor Cloud, contact them today and see how much time and money you can save. You can visit them at sponsorcloud.io/contact and make sure you let them know that you're part of the REI Rocks community, because these sponsors are the reason why we are able to continue offering affordable and low cost, no cost education, summits, information, knowledge, experiences, all of the things that we're able to find and bring to y'all. It happens because we have sponsors like Sponsor Cloud. So check them out, see how they can help you out. And Sponsor Cloud, thank you.
Yep, that's really awesome. And that free $2,000 migration, that can't be understated. You know, not having to have your tech sit there and guess how to migrate everything and all the stuff that'll fall through the cracks. It's a real issue. But the bad news, I got bad news for everybody. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be doing this on a Friday morning, but the bad news is our subscription is going to be going up in price. So if you're really enjoying these REI Rocks reviews and you want to finish these sessions that we watch, we're only able to be a little bit of a tease. So that's why we have this on here. The price is going up. Jason, do you want to say a thing or two about that for everybody?
Yep. We think next week we are going up. We're doubling our price, so we're going to be less than $40, which is still a really good deal. It's just that, like Dan says, we have a lot of content. It costs a lot of money to store that content on the cloud. We keep it safe and reliable so that if something happens, we are not going to lose it all. And so just because of the overheads going up, we have to pass this on to you, but it's still going to be $34 a month. So I mean, that's still a killer deal.
I absolutely agree. And here is the voice of REI Rocks. How you doing today, Angel?
I'm doing all right. How are y'all?
It's a little bit rough around the edges, but you know, I'm sure we'll survive. But we're going to go through Kelly Ionone's presentation on marketing. Do you have a thing or two to say about that presentation before we start, Angel?
I mean, honestly, it was just really awesome, and it was really cool to get to talk to somebody that. And when you think about Walt Disney World, you think about that being like the place where the magic happens, right? And she left that place to pursue real estate investing, and it's just super exciting.
Yeah, it really is. And I'll just open up the VIP site where we get all of these different videos. You can see a little glance that we've got a lot of planned upgrades for this site to go along with what we've already got here. We're going to be categorizing different presentations so you can go to the different classrooms. It's going to be very exciting. But here is the presentation. Now, I should remind you guys, though, if you're watching this next segment and going like, wow, is this Alvin and the Chipmunks? Or, why is it going so fast? Don't forget the speed controls on your side. But one thing we always do to show you the benefits of consuming pre-recorded content is we up the speed to 1.5 times speed. And then that way you can see how much you can get accomplished in a shorter amount of time. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you're in it, it's the best way to add more time to your day. But here is Kelly's presentation. Let's go.
Hey guys, it's Angel, and you're here for the Spring Summit with the REI Rocks group, and we're just so excited to have you here. These are 6 of my favorite days of the year. We do this twice a year, 3 days each time, and I'm just glad you're here. I hope that you have enjoyed everything on this side of things. This is a ton of pre-recorded content. There's at least 35 hours here, and it's just a great place to be. You don't have to pay for it. You can watch it at your leisure. You can speed it up, slow it down, rewind it. But if you really want to get an even more amazing piece of this, you want to get that super stealthy VIP subscription, because with it, you get the upgrade to join us on the live side. And you get access to 6 summits of pre-recorded information. With the 7th, which is this one, you're going to have 450 hours of content. And let me tell you something, friends. I did not learn what I know from reading books and listening to podcasts. I learned it from this right here. Basically, one-on-one sessions with these amazing experts in the space. And I got them for me and for you. And we get to listen to it. And you can go back and you can do all of those things that you need to do to absorb the information. And I want you to have that option. So VIP subscription. If you don't see the QR codes or the links, email me and I will make sure you get it. So we're going to move on because I have an amazing guest. I have Kelly here. And after an 18-year amazing career with Disney, she has made the move into a full-time real estate professional. And she's going to share with us some of her story and then just talk about what it's like to have that real estate side hustle while you're still working, because I think we've all been there. So Kelly, I'm going to turn it over to you if you want to give us a little bit about yourself, and then we can get started.
Absolutely. So I'm so excited to be here. Hey, everyone. As you mentioned, I spent 18 years working at the Walt Disney Company. And like so many of you and what society tells us, I grew up being told I needed to go to college, get a good job, work, save, invest until I was 55, 65 in order to be able to retire. And about halfway through my corporate career, I realized that doing the corporate grind no longer fueled me. So I really made the pivot, dove deep into understanding what I wanted my future life to look like. And that's what then led to real estate. And I've spent the last 7 years investing in real estate and getting to the point where I could retire early at the age of 40 from the Walt Disney Company.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was not 40. I left my full-time job formally in 2020. And let's see, I'm 46 now. So what does that do for me? I was like 42, 43.
That's still pretty impressive, though. Let's be honest.
Well, and I guess my husband got the same thing because he's a little bit younger than me. And his last day was June of this past summer. So we're both full-time in this now, and it's wow.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's been about a month for me that I have not had the 9-to-5 grind. And so I'm still very much, adjusting and transitioning. But so far, I've been amazed at, I've been able to have breakfast with my mom without taking vacation time and without worrying about getting back to the office for a meeting or chaperoning my children's field trip or signing up to volunteer at their school. And so I've just been able to already, just in a short period of time, see some of those benefits and really have a more well-rounded life and fulfillment from,
It might be my imagination, but but in 2018, I went to the Cortez Pavilion or whatever it was called at Disney World, and I think I may have run into Kelly. I keep on having this recurring thing of like, was that her? Because there was somebody who looked a lot like her, and I'm gonna have to bug her to find out if that was her or not. But that's just a little sidetrack factoid, potentially. Let's continue.
The people that I love.
Yeah, no, and we're so we're gonna be in Salt Lake City in March. I've got a crazy March. So the summit is March 23rd, 24th, 25th. That's the days that you're here. Well, in the weeks prior, we have been doing a ton of stuff. We've spent time in Salt Lake City at Best Ever. Then my kids have spring break, but we just pulled them from school. So if there's any school officials watching, sorry about that. But with all of our nannies having left, our choice was to bring them with us. So,
and they're gonna get so many life experiences from that too.
Well, yeah, and it worked out really cool because the person whose Airbnb I'm staying at has a 22-year-old daughter, not in school, not working, and got to be a second set of eyes and hands for my own kiddos since they were in the Airbnb all day because we were at a conference. But we have the ability to, as we're coming back, stop wherever we want.
Yeah.
There's no real tie there, and so that's gonna be really nice. And then in April, I'm actually gonna be a chaperone for the Grand Tetons trip. So there's a whole week of April that the high schoolers, I think high school plus 8th grade at their school, is gonna go on this trip, and I get to go and not have to worry about job responsibilities. I still teach college.
That's amazing.
I do it online, and I do some scoring for ETS here and there, but it's all online. So there's a lot of freedom there.
That's amazing.
That's pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
So it's been cool too, because now that Jason is no longer really tied to a W-2, he's still doing the consulting gig, but when stuff happens at school, we can just go. Like there's a coffee next Wednesday at 8 a.m. And as much as I am not a morning person, I'll be there for that, unhappily, but I'll be there. And so it's mostly because of the tuition increase, but we just want to have our voices heard because 3 kids at the tuition increase is like paying for college.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I'm very fortunate that where we live, we have good public schools. So our children are in the public school system. And
Well,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and well, having been a public school teacher, it was I just wanted, it's a STEM school, and I think it's a really good place for our kids to be because we're very different. And one of the things that I didn't like was watching them not really crush, well, yeah, kind of crush her spirit, my oldest.
Mm.
And I didn't want to see that happen to her. And at this school, they don't do that at all. They let kids be entrepreneurs, kids run businesses, kids like get to have crazy hair. Julianne, half her head is shaved. Well, not really shaved, it's like one guarded. And the other half is like thicker than all of my hair combined. She got my hair from when I was younger, but I had kids and it all fell out and it hasn't grown back. So
I think that's an interesting thing that, you mentioned. I'll be very interested to see how our school system is, not just K through 12, but especially college and the perception around college and the stigmatism, the society norms, come another 5, 10, 15 years. Because just in my journey of really diving into the financial independence, retire early space, which then led to real estate space, there are so many other ways to be educated. In my drive and MBA, so I've done my fair share of your traditional education. But there are so many ways to be educated. And not only obviously books and podcasts, but networking like this and different masterminds and coaching programs. There's just so many ways to be educated these days that it doesn't need to just be that you have to go to college or you're going to be a loser.
yeah, well, if our kids want to go to college for the experience, fine. My husband has a doctorate. I have my master's degree. I mean, we get it. We
Yeah,
both
yeah,
have
yeah.
degrees, but we're still like, if they want to pull Adonis Brothers and decide to go to real estate at 18, I'm
Mhm.
okay with that too. Because I tell you,
Yeah.
one of the things I learned from those guys was something that I incorporate into my calls when I'm going out and trying to raise capital, which is that double dial. Which I don't know if you've ever heard them talk about
Not
it,
familiar. Mm-mm.
but it was which one of the twins was it? Is Jeffrey the one that talks?
Kenneth talks a lot too.
Okay. Well,
Not in a bad way.
well, one of them is the one that does the most reach outs. Like he's the guy on the phone. I think it's Jeffrey, because Kerwin's the older one. Anyway, doesn't matter. So he talks about this thing called the double dial. And what you do on the double dial is you call. If they don't answer, hang up. Wait 30 seconds to 60 seconds and call back. A lot of time they'll answer on the second call because they're like, man, what number is this? It must be important. And then this is where I took it, and I took it a little bit further and made it my own. If they don't answer on the second call, you have to leave a voicemail. If you forget to leave a voicemail on the second call, you can't call 3 times because you look like a psycho. You got to do it again. So you leave a voicemail after the second call and then follow it up with a text that says what the voicemail is. So you've got voicemail, touch 1, text, touch 2. And when you finally get on the phone, that's 3 touches.
I like that. I'm totally stealing that. So thank you. And thank you, Donis Brothers.
Right? But it's scary. I'm not going to lie. It's scary.
Yeah.
It feels really uncomfortable for a little bit. Like, and even now that's what I do. Like the first couple of phone calls I do on a day like that, I'm like, ooh, this feels weird. But it
I'm not
worked.
going to lie. I need to do more phone calls.
Yeah, but no, I think it's just, it was something that I learned from them, and they were just getting started and very young. And I was already in my 40s, and I was like, I'm totally going to try that because I think you can learn from anyone. And so I think
Totally
it's
agree.
cool that they decided that they were going to be able to do more getting into real estate.
Hey, Angel, I figured I'd back up a little bit there for beginners in the audience because maybe they don't know what raising capital is or like what that even means. So if you want to unmute, then maybe you can share that.
Absolutely. So when you are in the syndication space, you are bringing investors together and y'all are purchasing these big properties together. And so that's what raising capital is, pulling those investors together and just kind of letting them know what the deal is like. And they're going to help you out. They're going to put money in your deal. They're going to invest with you. And that's the real thing is they're not just investing in the deal. They're investing with you. And so on a capital raise, you're really curating and fostering and building those relationships that you've already created. And you're taking them further because now you're asking them to invest in you and invest in your deal. And when you're raising the capital from the investors, that's what your cap raise is. And so that's what you're doing. That's what it's called. And some people are amazing at it. Some people are not. But it's something that if you're going to be in syndication, really everybody on your team needs to be contributing in some way to those capital raises.
Absolutely. And even when you run into people hobnobbing with billionaires, you'll find out that they are still raising capital and sourcing deals. Really what's going on is if you've got enough money, you've got more than you spend each year, and you should be trying to save a bit, but you really need to find some place where your money will perform better. And so, they call them partners. There's the general partners, and then there's the limited partners. And at the end of the day, we're all partners. And so we're looking for better investments. And so we're just getting the word out. Hey, I'm investing in this building because I want my wealth to grow. And if you're willing to take that bet, then, you're happy to come along. But you got to have a documented substantive relationship, or else the SEC will be very upset with you, especially if you have a 506B. But there you go. But this is the REI Rocks review. We're here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and we are reviewing Kelly Ianone's presentation. Here we go.
And really educating themselves. They got into a really good program. They're in a great coaching program. They have a lot of support around them, and they get to go to conferences at a reduced price. I did not know this one. If you're under like 25, you get a reduced price to go to some of the major conferences.
I had no idea.
So they've been riding that train.
I had no idea. We're partnered with them on their, they have a deal in Atlanta, Georgia that closed in November. So we partnered with them on that particular deal. And so that's how I've gotten to know the Donis brothers. And then it sounds like we're on some of the same shows. So we both, they went out, and then I went out to Denver to be on the Bigger Pockets Multifamily Mentor show. And then obviously you've chatted with them as well. So that's funny. It's a small world, but I think that goes to the point. Like, there's such a great example, and there's others out there as well that have gotten started in real estate so young, that I think college absolutely has a place. And I think one of the places it's really good is it gives you that buffer. Like, to me, it gives you that buffer between being a child and being a full-fledged adult. You get that 3, 4, 5 year, whatever it is, buffer time to really figure yourself out a little bit more and have some independence and mature. But I think depending on your personality, like if you leave high school and you're super self-motivated and you kind of know what you're going to do, and you are going to take the bull by the horns and go after it, maybe it's not as needed. Now, if you're going to go in the corporate side and you want to get promoted and you want to be an executive, you need the formal education, because it's a check mark. And that was part of why I went and got a master's degree, because I wanted to continue to be promoted and I needed that check mark. But if that's not the angle you're going, there's so many opportunities out there.
No, there absolutely are. And I think that just comes back to, why are people choosing real estate? And we were talking before we started hitting record about my TRS account. I've been lamenting over the TRS account for years. I think every time Parker and I get on the call, I'm lamenting about the TRS account, begging somebody to help me get my money from that freaking TRS account. But that was what you were taught to do. You were taught to make good grades, go to college, get a job, and get your retirement. And I just want my money, dang it. I can do so much more with it, but you don't know that. And it's also super risky. So
yeah,
I've got this retirement pension, and I'm like, I want all of it. I want to pull it all. And if I'm going to self-directed, is there a chance I could lose it all? Absolutely. Is that going to happen? Probably not. Jason and I have been in residential real estate for 2 decades. We both grew up in families and invested in residential real estate, and we've been in multifamily for 5 years. I mean, I feel like we have a pretty good educational base on what we're doing. And so even though it might be risky to the average person out there, I don't feel it's really risky at all. And by taking control of my retirement money, I can do so much more with it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned we talked before.
Here's a good time to mention that we're not financial advisors, accountants, attorneys, any of that kind of stuff, and everything is just meant for entertainment value. Yeah.
Beforehand, I don't have that option with my pension. I'm very fortunate that I do get a pension. I don't have that option. But what I did have was during COVID, my husband was furloughed for 14 months. So we were able to take money out of our 401ks, which of course every financial planner, and my parents, if I would have asked them, would have said, do not touch your 401ks, that's your retirement money. But because of our experience in working in real estate and investing in real estate, I could understand the value of real estate and pulling some of that capital off the stock market roller coaster, where I do not have any control over any of the investments that I'm making. I have no control over the companies I'm investing in. I have no visibility really outside of what you get in your quarterly earnings reports, which quite frankly are they're like, it's a sales thing. They're trying the quarterly reports, the annual reports. I don't know. I'm going to go there,
but only the highlight reels.
Yeah. Right, because at the end of the day, it's about shareholder value, and it's about the perspective of the analyst on Wall Street. And so we made a very strategic decision that we pulled $100,000 out of our 401ks and we put it in real estate. We didn't pull it out and go spend it on a new Mercedes Benz or a bigger house or any liability like that. We took that money and we reallocated it into real estate. And what I get from that building that we put that in, I get more today in cash flow than I'll get from my pension in 15 years.
Because you pulled it out, you actually get to experience the cash flow. Because if it was still in the 401, it would have to go back in the 401. So I don't remember if we took those options or not. I know that at one point we had, Jason had an inherited IRA that we turned into some oil and gas, which may not be doing great today, but man, the past year has been amazing. So I know one of the things that allowed for me to leave in 2020 from the whole W-2 scene was that we had replaced my income many, many years before that. Now, Jason was making substantially more with a doctorate in engineering. So it took quite a bit more to replace his income. And I'm not going to say we were there or that we are there, but he was off in June of this past summer. So he still does.
The reality is, sorry to interrupt.
No,
the reality is you don't need to replace your income. It's not your income you're looking to replace. It's your expenses that you're looking to cover. And if you're living well below your means and you're investing, a fair amount of your income, that number is much lower. We were investing, we were saving at 1 year, we saved 56% of our income, which meant we didn't need to make as much money as we were making. We could have both got jobs that paid half of what we paid and still been able to cover our expenses. And that's what has given us the opportunity, or me the opportunity, really, to step away from that W-2 job. And because, it goes back to your point of like moonlighting. I was able to moonlight in order to get to a point where I could quit my corporate role.
Yeah, well, that was like our whole residential portfolio was built while we were in school. We got our first house in 2003, and Jason didn't finish his doctorate until 2006. And so I was the breadwinner with my little private school job at $15,000 a year. I was literally bringing home $1,001 a month. It was horrendous.
Wow.
I went to work in public school and made 31, doubled my income. But I was the breadwinner during all of that. And so I sit back and I think, I'm like, how in the world do we make it on my 30,000 a year?
Right.
I mean, he was working too. He had a TA job, but that was mostly just to pay for his college. So it was kind of insane to sit back and think back on that. And now I'm like, even with just our son with his medical needs, it's like we're paying $5,000, $6,000 a month just to a credit card because that's what we have all of the subscribe and save on or Amazon. And so it's like, wow, how far have we fallen from that 30,000 a year?
Well, and I think that also makes, I mean, like, that's a really good point because there's people today that make that kind of money, or maybe a little bit more because you've got inflation, of course, over the time, that are struggling to save and invest, but yet they're saving in their investment.
That's another time I think that's good to pause it, because it's just another example of how the difference it makes having people in your network who've already done this stuff, who figured out ways to maximize what they get out of retirement plans, out of their investments, out of their portfolio in general. And I don't know why, but sometimes I like to offer free stuff to everybody, and the free stuff is a meetup. It's Marvelous Mondays. It's amazing. It's every Monday. Angel, do you want to say a thing or two about why people should scan that QR code or go to the academypresents.com/meetup link?
Absolutely. So we meet every Monday. We meet at noon Eastern, and we just have a really great time. We're super laid back. We answer questions. We just chill out and hang together. It's a great place to be. It's a great place to get started. And there's 25 to 40 of us that welcome you with open arms, and we'll answer your questions. We'll just talk real estate with you. And it's a lot of fun, and I love it. And it's a great way to start your week.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, there's a common thing that everybody says is that your net worth is your network, or vice versa. And there's a lot of truth to it. The fact is, you're only going to find better investments if you know more people. And so being a wallflower or a recluse or something like that, it's not going to help. So, and I see that John was also mentioning about how raising capital is not that easy, and it most certainly is not. It's very, very true. It's a lot of people are trying to figure out how to time the market before getting in on their next commercial investment. But I think that time is coming really, really soon for a lot of people. But that's what I'm thinking these days. So once again, this is the REI Rocks Review. We're here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and here is Kelly Ianone's presentation. Let's do this.
Investing in what they have access to, and what they've been told and what they've always heard they need to invest in through their 401ks in the stock market. And you and I both know, when we look at the risk-adjusted returns of real estate, your returns are far better, especially when you're looking at value add projects where you can really force the appreciation. You have control over this asset, and you have control over the ability to grow that capital, where in the stock market, you just don't have that level of control. Now, everybody will argue, right, investing in your 401k is really tax efficient. You can do it with pre-tax dollars, or you can do it in your Roth, one of the two, whichever way that goes. But what we don't talk about is all the tax efficiencies in real estate, which quite frankly is even better over the long term than what you have in the 401k. But it's not mainstream. It's not what we've been told. It's not where, the street has to make money, and they make the money by preaching what we need to invest in the 401ks or through the stocks.
Yeah, well, the last time at Chris Galizio was on here, and he talked a lot about how it's really crazy because really we're financing those companies. It's not because of actual value that they have. It's because we're financing them. And it's not because they're making these stellar profits, or like, it's not how it used to be. Like, it used to be stocks had value because their companies were making profits, and that was being passed on through dividends, and all these things are going on. And then there's been this movement where companies are being rewarded for becoming more leveraged. It's just kind of insane. And so I don't play stocks. I've got this little, Acorns or whatever. I put like $25 a month in it. It just sits there. At some point, it'll maybe be a few $1,000s. I can do something with it.
I never thought about it as financing these companies, but you're right. You're financing the debt of you're financing these companies. I never thought about it from that perspective.
Yeah. And I mean, that's when they have like, whenever they do like their IPOs or whatever, but it's still, they're being rewarded for how they're making that money work. And it was just a really neat way to look at it. And he's actually got a movie coming out, and it's going to be talking about those kinds of things. And I want to say it's going to be on Netflix, but I could be wrong. But it's Chris Galizio, and he was on the econ panel last summit, and he's a really awesome guy and very, very, very knowledgeable about that whole scene of things.
I'm very interested to see that when that comes out.
Yeah, it's going to be called Money Game.
Money Game.
I heard him mention it this week that it looks like it's going to be out next year. So in 2024, you can look for Money Game. I saw it in a post, and Andrew Rosenberg is the one who got him on my radar. He's always really encouraging Chris in that project. So it's some exciting stuff.
I'm glad that there's more content coming out on this because we need to talk about it more. This needs to not be taboo. I was very fortunate. I grew up in a family where we did talk about money, and I saw my mom balancing a checkbook. I got my first credit card. I got at like 14 years old because my parents understood it was a tool to build credit. And granted, I wasn't allowed to just go spend on it, but I learned it as a tool to learn credit. And I learned about, again, I got the whole invest in your 401k, get a good job, get a pension. Like that was the narrative I was taught. But at least I was taught to spend less than I earned and invest the difference. And that got me on a decent path. But we need everybody to be talking about this. And unfortunately, if it's not going to be taught really well in the school system, then we need parents to be talking about this at home, which also means parents need to get themselves in a position where they're more comfortable talking about it with their children because they themselves are on a better path.
Yeah. Well, I'm not screaming multifamily everyone either because multifamily is scary. Residential used to be hard. And then as we got into multifamily, it's like residential became very simple. Like if I have, and we're not against residential. If a house fell into our laps, we would absolutely buy it. Especially if it was a good price, we'd buy it. And even if Jason was on a trip or something like he was last summer with my oldest, like if a house had fallen into my lap, even if a small portfolio had fallen into my lap while he was gone, I think I have enough connections and enough people that I know that I could have taken care of that and gotten it underway so that when he got back, we had some more cash flow. But it's really crazy to think that because 20 years ago, no way.
It's scary, right?
Yeah, I didn't even know how to do another loan. Like, where the heck am I going to come up with 20%, 25%? How am I going to do this? And now it's like, well, like I told you, we bought a small portfolio and walked away from title with money, and not a small chunk, like not small change, like a sizable amount of money, almost $20,000. And so it's like, the game is different. Once you learn how to play it, the game gets different. And I think that's why it's really important if you're thinking about getting into it. And I'm not going to say like what you were saying, you don't have to replace your income, but like Marty Philogene says, it's like cover your expenses. Once you've covered your expenses, you can go ahead and come back a little bit, take some hands off, and maybe leave the W-2. But if it's something you really love, you don't have to leave it. Maybe
Absolutely.
you don't have time, or something that still allows you to be fulfilled in that W-2, but also allows you to really focus on the side gig that is going to cover your needs. Because if you're relying on your W-2 to cover your needs, you're never going to find true wealth. Because so long as you're trading time for money, you're never going to be able to sack enough away.
Yeah, and it's a risky proposition as well. I mean, we're in this period of time where a lot of companies have been laying off. I mean, Disney, let's talk about Disney, right? From a management, the CEO changes, and then just this last week announcing 7,000 layoffs, which yes, is a very small number. It's 3%, I think, of their global employee base. But at the exact same time, they're kicking up dividends again for their shareholders. So when you think about, stability as an employee and aligning with the company, like the company is going to fire 7,000 people, but at the exact same time announces, reinstating dividend payments. Okay. It can be risky relying on one employer for an income. So that's where building them.
And then there's inflation and how wages don't tend to keep up with inflation at all. There's so many risks to a W-2 that people just don't understand. Like the other one too. I don't know in the audience how many people recently started a new job, but you may have forgot that they always have 2 weeks withholding. That's really standard. So in other words, you work for 2 weeks, the boss has 2 weeks to profit off of whatever you do, and that's being held the entire time. I think it's a very important thing to be super clear about those in your head, because when you're looking at alternatives, most people only see risk. It's like, oh, going into real estate, oh, you're going to lose your shirt because I knew this guy who blah, 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 blah. But it's like, well, you don't talk to the guy who's only done one deal and it didn't work out. You talk to the people who do like 10 houses a month or something like that. Or, like you guys who, you guys have been doing this for over 20 years, right? The single family side.
Yeah, you need to just talk to the guy who hasn't quit, because that's the guy who's successful. It's when you quit is when things go bad. So
yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
You don't want to take advice from people that aren't where you want to be, because the people that are going to poo-poo what you're doing and are going to tell you you're going to lose everything, those are the people that are beside you in that W-2. They're not the people that are out there doing it. So don't let the fear of the people that aren't doing it color what you do, because it's the people that are doing it that aren't sitting there in that W-2 beside you. They're out there being successful with it, and those are the people you need to be talking to.
Right, and you'll see that if you get to know enough people who are in this space and they're sticking with it, if you ask them, hey, did you see what happened on the Kardashians this week? The answer is no. Don't know. We have no idea. Any of these regular shows, it's like it's just not a priority. Being entertained, it doesn't get you any further in life. and you have to be really careful about that. So anyway, let's let Kelly's presentation continue. Let's do this.
Multiple streams of income helps diversify that and gives you flexibility. And to your point, to Marcia's point, if you enjoy what you're doing, continue to do it. I was at Disney for 18 years. There were plenty of roles that I enjoyed doing. I worked with a lot of fabulous people. It gave me a lot of opportunities. And so it's just following that joy and what fulfills you.
Yeah. Well, it gives you a network to pull from and grow with.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean like in the W-2. I mean, yes, you're going to live and build networks and grow in your W-2 also. I was a teacher. I love being a teacher. But on the flip side of that, teachers don't have a whole lot to invest. Now, some of them have spouses or partners that make substantially more and they're able to invest that way. But I can still do a 506B and let them come in for less than the minimum and just get to see what it's like to have their money grow. And I can help my friends that way. And that's something I can choose to do. And the other members of our GD team, we have another teacher, his wife's still a teacher. And then my sister-in-law knows that I'm a teacher. She's been a teacher some. Like there's a lot of us have understandings of the teacher heart.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to be able to help our fellow teachers and fellow educators.
Yes.
But in a job like with Disney or like my husband as an engineer, there is accessibility to more capital funds for when you are raising. And so having that network in place can be really good. So I'm not saying, I'm not like putting down having a W-2 because there's a lot of great things that can come from that.
Absolutely.
Has a whole, like he teaches people how to start investment clubs in their business. So if you're wanting to talk to somebody that can help you start an investment club or start some kind of a real estate investing group within your company, Daniel Homeland is the guy to talk to because he's done it. Is he at Intel? I think he's like at Intel. So like it's a big, like he did it at a big company and it's a big deal. And so that's a possibility too. And you can grow your network out of that. My sister-in-law, her husband, they work at a company. They're working at Saudi Aramco, and a lot of money is flowing through there. And so you've also got a lot of lifestyle creep. So people that even making substantial amounts of money are still pulling paycheck to paycheck, but there's more accessibility and availability, and you can actually have those conversations. Whereas with certain groups and sectors of the population, you can't even have those conversations. So nothing wrong with having a W-2 and nothing wrong with having that side hustle. We did it for 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah. It gets you there. And it's, having a side hustle or moonlighting, as I like to call it, it takes away some of the fear, takes away some of the scariness, because, one of the things that my husband and I experienced was because one, we were saving so much of our income and we were building this real estate portfolio and investing in these large syndication deals. We had a lot of buffer. We had a lot of buffer if something went wrong in a deal. We had a lot of buffer if one of us lost our jobs. And then it got to the point where we had enough buffer where if we both lost our jobs, during COVID, we both could have been furloughed and lived on unemployment just fine because we had built these passive income streams. And, I mentioned he was furloughed for 14 months and fortunately it wasn't a financial burden to us, but for so many people in our sphere, it was. And so that, I loved seeing during that period of time, so many people start side hustles because I think one, obviously they needed to figure out how to provide for themselves, but I think it also gave an opportunity for people to really reevaluate how they wanted to spend their time and contribute. And I know people that now they do 3 part-time jobs. They do a consulting gig, they do a baking gig, they do things that bring them more joy, and they can pulse up and down these different jobs based on the demand and based on, how they're wanting to work.
Well, and I like that buffer because I think that what having that side hustle does for you is it gives you options. Because when you have that financial wiggle room, you have that buffer.
I'm going to pause right there again because I think it actually dovetails into your underwriting, specifically the risk mitigation part of all this. So that is Jason's big forte. And when I say risk mitigation, I'm saying it's not like it's risk free, but you can sit there and say it's like, rather than going what if, you can get more specific and say, what if this changes by 10%? What if this changes by 20%? Where does that leave us? And I'm going to throw some more triangles on our face. Jason, do you want to say a thing or two about the coaching and different programs you've got, including actually helping people with their underwriting directly, like if they don't want the coaching? You want to go ahead and talk about that?
So I think the triangles that you just put up are my underwriting services that can help you go through your existing underwriting, or I can help underwrite a deal for you. But I also do coaching of underwriting. I have a course where we go through, and it's a 12-week course, and we go through everything in meticulous detail, where we go through how to find all the information you need so that you're not guessing or using somebody else's assumptions. You're finding your own, and so that helps mitigate all the risks right there. If you're using somebody else's numbers or you're guessing, you're just asking for someone to take your money from you. So, but I do go through that. Like I said, it's about a 12-week course, and we go through everything. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I got the link to your LinkedIn up on the screen. So make sure you're watching this on LinkedIn. I see that came up on YouTube, so we'll have to migrate that as well. But it's creating the business plan so that you know what your numbers should look like. I think it's such an important thing. And so many people, because of their gurus or coaches, they give the terrible advice of saying like, oh, well, just let your loan broker underwrite it. That's just a nonsense strategy, because you're sitting there fighting against gravity as far as I'm concerned. Do you want to say, okay, yeah, we got another one here. The academypresents.com/Jason is the other direct link there. Jason, did you have anything else to say about basically outsourcing to your loan broker?
If you outsource to your loan broker, they're only going to be considering the facts that they care about, and not necessarily what your business plan is. So they're looking to make sure that the debt's going to get paid. They're not making sure you're going to make a profit. So it is possible to have a business where you can cover your debt service, and then that's about it. So.
So that basically makes it, that's even worse than buying a job, which is one thing that they describe. You know, when you buy a business, you could be buying a job because you have to fill in all the time. But this is even worse, because you might wind up volunteering or even working at your own expense. And so if that isn't a great reason to really look into improving your underwriting, I don't know what is. But this is the REI Rocks review. We've got a little bit more time left in Kelly's presentation. I gotta say that I'm sorry, but we're not going to be able to complete the entire presentation because, hey, we got to keep the lights on, and that's all part of the subscription. You can rewind this on replay or something like that, and we'll give you the link. But this is Kelly Ianone's presentation. Let's get started.
Like, one, I feel like it makes you a better employer or employee, because you're doing the job because you love it, not because you have to. But it gives you a different level of security. And then as you feel that security, you want to get more into it, and you're going to get more involved with it. And so it just kind of, it's like a circular kind of thing. It just keeps going and growing. And then you eventually have everything covered, and you're literally only working because you love it. And then you can leave whenever things get too toxic, or any other number of things, or mornings just get too hard, dang it.
Yes.
Which, for those of you that I would assume, like most of y'all know, but mornings are not my thing. So I don't know how I was a teacher for all those years, other than it was just the drive of loving being a teacher and finding fulfillment in being a teacher. So
I'm glad I have the kids, because that gets me out of bed in the morning. Otherwise, yes, I'd be sleeping till 10 a.m. every day.
well, Jason, my husband, has decided we need to have all these meetings at 9 a.m., which means I have to get up. And I'm just like, and I told him,
actually get dressed and ready.
Yeah, well, sort of, at least from the waist up. But
Yeah.
I told him, or I don't want to other GP team members, I'm like, dang it, we work for ourselves. We don't have to kill ourselves like this. And Frank was like, do you want me to talk to Jason? No, just listen to me complain.
That's something I'm working on, that my GP team, we have meetings basically Tuesday and Thursday nights. We have meetings for like an hour and a half, 2 hours each of those evenings, because we went from a period of time, we're a team of 5, and 3 of the folks were full-time. 3 of the folks were full-time, and 2 of us had full-time jobs. So in order to be able to get us all, we did it in the evenings. And so now one of them is still working for the period of time. And I'm like, when are we going to get these during the day? We need to get these during the day, because now that I have the option to, it used to be that I had my 9 to 5, and so I had to do my corporate thing during the normal business hours, and real estate came in the early mornings and the evenings and on the weekends. Now I can, I have more control. So I keep talking to the team, going, how do we move this earlier into the day to free up our evenings? I mean, we talked before we started recording, like last weekend, I didn't do an ounce of real estate work, and it was amazing. And I mean, it's been a few years since that's happened, because I used to take investor calls on the weekends, and mind you, I will from time to time still, but I used to have like 2 hours on Sunday afternoons that I had open on my calendar for people to book calls. And so I would have that. I'd be visiting a property that we have 40 minutes from home, to walk the construction site on the weekend, kids in tow half the time, just to walk it and check on the progress. We used to do all these things. And so last weekend was the first weekend in probably years that I literally didn't do anything for real estate. And it was really nice. Real estate, or W2, obviously.
No, we've worked pretty hard. I do a lot of meetups in the evenings, because this is my lane. This is what I do. I talk to people, I network with people, I run events, I host meetups. I mean, this is my job. And so I have a lot of my evenings in stuff, or committed to things, but we really try and keep the weekends, like, not really sacred, but open, because we've got 4 kids, and they go to school during the week, and they have events in the weekend, or in the weeknights, and some stuff on the weekends. And we just want to try and make sure that we have some flexibility there to be able to just sit, in front of the TV on Sunday afternoons and watch movies, because I don't have a problem with whatever people want to call it, wasting time or anything else. If we want to watch, all the Harry Potters on a weekend, then we're gonna watch all the Harry Potters on a weekend, because we have that ability. If we want to watch all the Star Wars, or we want to watch one of those other series of Marvel, or however it works out, I mean, that's what we do as a family. That's what we enjoy. And before somebody comes down on us. And we have a special needs kid that we can't go out and do the same things as other people. He's a runner. He'll take off. He broke his wheelchair, and I don't even know how much it's going to be to fix it. I don't even know how to fix it. Jason, my engineering husband, is going to try and figure out how to fix the handle. But it limits what we can do because he's hard to control sometimes. And I'm not saying that we're trying to like manhandle him and control him, but he's got truly profound autism. It's the autism people don't talk about. He's largely nonverbal and still in diapers. He's 12. It's a different kind of experience for us. And so we spend a lot of time at home, and that's just kind of the reality of it. And it's our normal. So we don't think of it as being weird. It's just what we do. So we like having the flexibility to be able to do what we need to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's like, wow. But that's
Every family is unique. And I think it's, to your point, it's having the ability and the flexibility to be able to do that. And that doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, right? You and Jason had to work years, both in your W-2 corporate type role, but also in building this real estate portfolio in order to free you of those golden handcuffs.
I hit pause right there because we do have to do our doggy bag, but I just love the fact that it says those golden handcuffs right there in the caption, just to get that into people's minds there. But there's one thing I want to talk about, which is my doggy bag from this presentation. So Kelly's story adds up. I shouldn't call it a story. I'm saying like her life, it adds up. It makes sense, like this, and sometimes it doesn't. So Angel, you mentioned a moment ago in the presentation that you're the online meetup person, and one of the things that you and I have in common that I think is really appealing when we've joined forces like this is we are really aware of the fact that it's a vetting process. We're figuring out, it's like, okay, is this person legit? Are they fly by night? Are they just going to disappear? Are they wolves in sheep's clothing? And when I hear Kelly's story, it's like, that makes sense. When I talk to the Donis brothers, okay, that makes sense. I see how they do it because they've been doing it for a few years already. They've actually got that portfolio. But if somebody comes along out of nowhere and they've been doing it for like a year or something, and they're giving just astronomical numbers, I don't buy it. It's just not something that I believe. And I think it's something to be very, I just find too many people are getting hosed recently, like between their coaching programs. Like I was upset with one mentor I knew because he bought his mentor a Lamborghini. And I was just going like, where's that money coming from? It's either coming from investors or it's coming from residents. And both of them are probably feeling a bit of a squeeze, at least enough that you shouldn't be spending the money on a Lambo, even if it's for marketing purposes and, whatever. But Angel, I don't know if you want to pong off of that or if you have a different doggy bag, but what are your thoughts?
Really, it was that you don't have to replace your income to leave your job. You just got to cover your expenses. That's it. Once you've covered your expenses, you have gained financial freedom. I'll say sometimes, like the reason I was able to leave teaching when the stuff got really crappy was because we had replaced my income, but that's not really the reality. It was more that we had enough coming in from our passive income that I could leave. It wasn't because it replaced my income. It was because we had built in enough buffer and built in enough space that I was able to leave. So it's not about fully replacing your income. It's not about keeping up with the Joneses. It's just cover your expenses, because as soon as you have enough passive income to cover your expenses, you have achieved financial freedom.
There you have it. Exactly. Just make sure you also include things like inflation, and make sure that you got some sort of idea for how the appreciation will work. But Jason, how about you? Doggy bag. I got to cut this off fairly early just because I got to pick up my wife from that emergency with her eye. But Jason, how about you?
I'm just saying, yeah, a lot of people start off with a W-2 and migrate this way. Anybody literally can do it. You just have to have the mindset to do it and have the plan to do it. And you have to, like I said earlier, not quit, because when you quit, that's when you fail. So.
That's a great way of putting that. And with that, we'll call it a day. This is the REI Rocks review. We are here. Let me see if I can find the match. Oh, there you go. This is an extreme close-up. This is a little too intense for this early for me personally. But if I go back like this, we are here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, even when we got other stuff going on. We review these different presentations from Angel's awesome REI Rocks summits. We got another one coming up in just over a month. So be sure to get connected on LinkedIn and watch us here on this program. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, and we really appreciate the fact that you spend this time with us. So that's all I got for today. So thanks a lot, guys. See you next time.
See ya.